Captain Greg here with Learn to Fish with Us. Well, we're getting ready for the ice fishing season, and this is my arsenal. So basically you can see I got Livescope, flasher, LCD graph, cameras, GPS, lithium batteries. These are all the tools that are in my ice fishing arsenal. And what I'm going to do now is we're going to talk about each one individually. Let's talk cameras. What I really like about cameras is when I put it down there, true, I must have the camera right where the fish are, and I must have it angled towards the fish, so it can be a lot of work on trying to get that camera lined up. But I can tell exactly what species that fish is, and I can also see when I'm jigging and all that, how are they reacting to my presentation. Little more about cameras. You can get them in different screen sizes and portability. So this one is a bigger screen, have a lot more cable for getting that camera down deeper. This one's a little more used for, I would say, 20 feet or less, because you can also see that the camera's a lot smaller. And believe it or not, with the smaller cameras, it's actually more work on trying to get that camera positioned, especially if you're in deeper water. The other thing these cameras have is most of them have recordability, which is awesome if you want to see what the fish are doing. For the cameras, I really like having soft cases for it so that you can actually protect the unit itself, but we use old socks to actually protect our camera unit. So what I'll do is just wrap this up and then wrap it around and make sure that I'm protecting the lens, which is probably one of the most important things of your camera units. Next, let's talk about the flasher. What's really nice is I can set the different depth ranges on here and it'll be a full screen. What I really like about the Humminbird is it actually has a big display. So I can easily see my bait going up and I can see fish coming in. Another nice thing about these flasher units, they have multi-cone angles. So if you want a narrow cone, you can set it to that, or you can go to a wider cone. Just note that when you're fishing shallow water, where most of the time I'm fishing 5 or 6 feet of water, that cone angle is still very narrow. And then you can set your gain and adjust that. But what I can easily do is see from the top of the ice all the way to the bottom what's going on with a flasher unit, which is really nice. And as fish come in and they get closer to my bait, it'll actually change colors so that I know that fish is very close to my bait. Some other things to consider is lithium batteries. Nice thing is lithium batteries are very light and they will allow you to power your unit for days based on how many amp hours that you actually buy. So I definitely recommend having a flasher as part of your fishing arsenal. The next fish locator I'd like to talk about is the LCDs. Basically, the LCDs come in many different screen sizes. So one thing to note is the bigger the screen, the more you're going to see, the more pixels, but also the bigger the screen, the more power it takes to run the unit. So most of these units are running on batteries. If you do go with a lithium battery, these units will run for a long period of time. Just like the flasher, the LCD just needs to have the transducer just barely in the water. So to be able to move these around, it's so easy compared to like a camera where you have a long cord. Let's talk a little bit about the screen. So most of the time what you're going to have is a small section here. That is what's going to tell you what's exactly below you and active. All the rest of the screen is going to be history. So at most you're going to have 5-6 seconds of history. The other thing is most of the LCD screens do come with a built GPS. So what's really nice is you can waypoint where you're fishing, or you could put a chip in and actually see where you are on the lake. So these are some of the features that I really like about the LCD. Next, I'd like to talk about GPS. GPS is so important. So on some of my locators, I actually have built-in GPS and also built-in maps or cards that have maps. So if I'm on a lake, I can actually know where I am. This is a Garmin unit, so this actually has the built-in lakes right into the unit. But what's so easy with this is that I can easily maneuver to a spot that I'm looking for. Let's say I'm out on Lake Winnebago, I'm looking for a reef. I can use the map on here and then using the GPS, follow where I am at to where I need to go, and that will do it. Look at how small this unit is. So easy to keep in your coat. Another thing is when you do have handheld GPS units, I definitely recommend having a nice soft case that they fit in so that you're protecting this unit. Because, believe it or not, this is one of my most important tools. Because if I'm on a hot bite, I can mark and go and hit waypoint. It'll save the spot that I'm fishing on. And then tomorrow when I come back, I can actually follow this out and actually get right back to the spot that I was fishing. So that's why GPS is so important in your fishing arsenal. Next, I like to talk about Livescope. I love Livescope, but I can tell you one thing. When I'm fishing shallow, I don't know if I want to lug this around. This has got a 10-inch screen on my Livescope, and I can tell you it's heavy. So one thing about this unit, it's great to have, but if you're manually moving around and walking around, most of the time I use this when I'm positioned in a spot or if I know I'm not moving much, or if I'm in deeper water. We'll also tell you why this makes up such a great tool to your fishing arsenal. For one, we got the big screen. I always like having my cover on here to protect my screen. Got a lithium battery in here because the bigger the screen, the more power it's going to take for your unit and also to run the screen. So I do believe I got a 40 amp hour battery in here, and this has lasted me for a couple days. Let's talk about the transducer. Summit makes a great cover, and you want to make sure you protect your transducer, you're not scratching it. But pull the cover off. I got a nice Ice Summit pole here. This thing will extend down 6 feet just by opening it up and loosening these connectors. It'll drop down, and then this will stop it. And then I got a handle to be able to rotate this. I can loosen this up and I can rotate how I'm pointing. So a little bit about what makes Livescope so hot is this entire screen here is active. So I'll see the fish swimming around out or underneath, and the whole screen is live versus a lot of LCDs, they only have live right here, and this is all history. That's what makes Livescope hot. When we go out to the ice, what's really nice is I could click this down one, and now what I can do is I can search for fish out. So usually I'll set my graph to 100 feet out. I'll go into forward view, and what I'll do is I'll look for fish. If I don't see fish, I will then motor on to another spot, drill a hole, search again, 100 feet all around my hole. Once I do find fish, what I do is I click this up and down, and that is down mode. And now what that's going to do is that's going to show me fish off. So if I'm in 20 feet of water, usually my cone angle is going to be 10 feet this way, 10 feet this way. If I was using traditional sonar, my cone angle might be 4 feet, 5 feet, so you can see how much more you can see live. The other mode is you can go into perspective mode. So if I'm fishing shallow water, I might turn my transducer like this and go into perspective mode. Now what that's going to do is shoot a beam that goes this way. And what I can do is see fish swimming in and swimming out. What's really nice is you can see how many fish are in that area. Sometimes that might be what you want to use as a forward mode. So I really do love Livescope when I'm fishing. The one thing to acknowledge is you just need to know the weight of this unit. And are you able to walk around with the unit the whole time. But definitely one of the coolest and most innovative fishing tools that we have. Next, I want to talk about tips for your electronics. Definitely recommend padded cases in keeping your electronics. The other thing is, make sure you keep the batteries charged up. Especially during summer, I at least have something on my calendar where I charge my batteries twice. When not using your devices, it's really nice to disconnect the battery. Livescope will suck that power out. If you were to let it sit there for a couple days, it'll slowly suck the power out. The other thing is, if you're not using lithium batteries, I definitely recommend going to lithiums. For one, they're light, but they actually have a lot of amp hours for the battery. So what you're going to want to do is calculate how much power do you need for how long, and that will help determine how big of an amp hour battery you need. The other thing is, I definitely recommend getting a nice lithium charger. This I can either plug in, or it actually has alligator clips, and this can be used for charging really any battery. You just click, do I want lithium, do I not? The other nice thing is, on this charger, it actually tells me how far it's charged. So if it's charged halfway, I know. If it's charged 3/4, I know. And then when it's fully charged, it tells me that. So definitely want to make sure your batteries are fully charged when you're going out. The other thing is, just make sure you protect, all your transducers and everything, that you are not hitting them or scratching them, because those transducers might not work as good as they were when they were new if you do not take care of them. So this is Greg Karch, and I am with Learn to Fish with Us. So please go out there, follow us. We have a bunch of great ice fishing video content. So like us and follow us on Learn to Fish with Us.